Hello, my dear masters. Today we are on another edition of the spiritual wisdom, the magnificent spiritual wisdom which is available to us from Harold Percival, the great author of Thinking and Destiny. This is one of the books that has really rocked the spiritual seekers, because it has given us a fund of information, a great volume of spiritual wisdom, and enabled us to move forward on our spiritual journey. I am S.K. Rajan here, representing the Pyramid Valley International and the Indian Federation of Spiritual Scientists. Both are organs of the Pyramid Spiritual Society's movement. I am accompanied by my life partner Girija Rajan, Brahma Vidvarishta Girija Rajan, who will be also adding on to some of the information that we will be getting through the book. Yesterday we had examined about the physical body, how the physical body is constituted or made or built, and we had also come to the conclusion that the building of the body in its prenatal state is thus done by elementals that work out in physical matter the lines on the breath form made by previous thinking and thoughts. So today we are going to analyze, after some time, about pregnancy and motherhood. Meanwhile, some more thoughts about the elementals are also available to us. So I go on to read them. Among peculiar prenatal influences are those exerted by several kinds of creatures that have thrown themselves out of the stream of human progress. These beings were human but have forsworn their humanity. They lost it because they were enemies of humanity or because they fell below a certain level. Shedding blood for the pleasure of it, inflicting injury for the delight of seeing the victim suffer, extorting money from the helpless, or delight in ruining the lives of others, and excessive sexual indulgence practiced for many lives will put one out of the stream of humanity.
Thank you very much. I am Girija Rajan. Now, what has been read by Mr. Rajan is a very, very great truth that is there in that we see in day-to-day life. Those souls, so-called souls, who have committed such heinous crimes against humanity, against others, against animal kingdom, by shedding blood and taking pleasure out of it, causing injury to another and taking pleasure, extorting money and overindulgence in sexual matters. All these things make them drift away from humanity, humankind. And once they get rid of or shed their physical bodies, they are left to themselves, they degrade themselves to a lower degree, where they neither can go back to an animal in an animal body, nor can they get a physical human body. So in such states, they roam about everywhere, and especially during prenatal times, when the lady is pregnant, at that time these entities, they may cause some influence, bad influence on the mother and the child to be. So what Percival says is, such things exist in our Indian culture or systems. It is believed that the elderly persons in a family will take care of the pregnant woman like rearing a child. They will be taken care of to the utmost. The pregnant ladies will not be allowed to move about in the dark during dusk time or early hours of the mornings. So they always protect them from such evil effects, the influence of such the souls which have drifted away from humanity and they have fallen, made themselves fall to a lower degree. Such beings will be such entities. We have to protect the woman who is pregnant from all these bad effects, bad influences. So they take utmost care in protecting that such a lady, so that the mother and the child are not affected by it, by the influence. So Percival has rightly said such influences are there, and how to not get influenced by that, such effects, such evil effects. So he goes on to say that these things are because of the man's behavior in several lifetimes, that all the 4 factors we have said, there are several factors which drift a man from humanity down to some other levels, even below the animal level. So they can either get an animal body nor a human body. So they will be lowering themselves every day and trying to influence and put their evil thoughts, evil influence on others, especially the pregnant woman. So utmost care has to be taken during that time. So in our Pyramid Spiritual Society's movement, we insist that a lady should start practicing rigorously, sincerely and seriously meditation, that too pyramid meditation. The moment she comes to know that she is carrying a baby, from day 1 she has to start meditation, so that such influences can be avoided, and so many benefits she gets out of it. The fear of delivery, so many fears and pains, aches, all those things can be overcome by regular practice of meditation and accessing cosmic energy easily. So that is what is taught in Pyramid Spiritual Society's movement, especially by Brahmarshi Pitamaha Patriji, so that the other influences in life can be avoided, the bad influences.
Then there are those who are not so much a danger to others, but who have fallen below the standard. Such are the persons who are degenerate through drinking alcohol to excess, using narcotics, or through excessive or abnormal sexuality. These creatures have lost the right to be born in human shape and are debarred from lawful entrance through normal copulation. They can come only if they can bond a couple uniting out of season or while drunk or during menstruation. Such a couple sponsor the creature for which they furnish a body and are responsible for bringing into the world one who would have been barred from the human family except for the manner of their admittance. The prenatal influences which these creatures bring to bear result in acts of depravity by the mothers.
So it is very clear from the reading itself that what such entities, like who are not that very seriously harmful to others, those who have otherwise degraded themselves from the quality of a human being, the excessive drinking, taking to drugs and indulging in abnormal sexuality and all those things, such beings, such entities, yes, they do select such parents who are already drunkards or already drug addicts. So such entities they select and get a form in order to be born as a human, but they continue to have their bad influence on others. So that is the state of affairs of such entities. That is what Percival wants to tell us. So it is better we give up all these unwanted habits and come out of them and then take to spiritual path, so that our lives will be in a better shape and we can continue. We will not degrade ourselves to a lower degree.
We now come to the aspect of pregnancy and motherhood and the prenatal influences of parents. It is supposed that the child's future character depends upon the mother and her environment. This is not entirely true. The mother is but willing or unwilling instrument who works according to the formed destiny of the future child. Experiments have been tried to produce offspring that would fulfill certain hopes. Most of them have failed. Among the Greeks, expectant mothers were surrounded by objects conducive to the production of healthy, beautiful, and noble children. Such children were frequently produced as far as physical qualities were concerned. But parents cannot produce noble characters and intellects. The best way for a woman to assure herself of a child which will have noble qualities and intellectual powers is to have these herself, to control her desires and think on lofty subjects before conception. However, women with strong desires or holding tenaciously to a thought have shown that strange results may sometimes be produced by the invisible and psychic influences prevailing on the form plane during fetal development. Marks have been made on the body of the child due to a picture held in the thoughts of its mother and then built out by elementals. Strange appetites have been impressed, fierce desires engendered, and peculiar tendencies implanted in the child, or birth was accelerated or retarded in consequence of some thought of its mother.
Yeah, Percival wants to tell us that is definitely everyone's thought is his destiny, no doubt. But then the expectant mother does have an influence on the child to be born. So he says that some of the qualities, some of the physical form, that is also as an impression it is formed on the breath form and taken to the child, and that is how it is formed, the physical form. If there has to be a deformity, yes, the deformity is formed because the thought of the child is also there to be considered, and the mother's present situation in which she carries herself, that is also very important. The mother, if she requires a healthy, intellectually strong and a noble child, yes, she has to surround herself, she has to be that herself, that is, she has to be healthy, she has to have a high intellect, and she has to have noble thoughts in her. So, some of the Greek practice was to have such things around the expectant mother that will produce so much of love and affection, noble thoughts, to create noble thoughts, and also intellectually the mother has to become strong. In such a way the things are surrounded, the people are surrounded by the expectant mother. That was a practice. So, the expectant mother's behavior is also to be considered. We cannot leave only just like that, and whatever she is, the child will have its own thought and the destiny of it as its life. It is not like that. Some influence, some amount of influence, yes, the mother will have on the child. So, the mother has to herself be on the path of spirituality. If she wants her child to be born as a noble child, yes, the influence will be there. Even though the child's influence also will be there, the child will have a spiritual bent of mind when it is born itself, in the womb itself, and then when it is born, definitely the child will have those influences and it can alter its life in accordance with spiritual laws, so that it leads a perfect life. It can change it. So, that the destiny can be changed if the mother's influence is highly put on the child to be born. So, the influence of the mother is also very, very important. Not only mother, the father also. The parents' influence on the child to be born is very important. So, we should have such a congenial atmosphere at home with lot of love, fun and intellectual talks and spiritual thinking, all those things have to be there, not harming others. All these things affect the child definitely. So the mother should be in a very peaceful and a joyful atmosphere. That is very important. That is what Percival goes on to say.
If a man and his wife are pure in their bodies and their thoughts, they will attract a doer about to come into a body whose destiny requires such conditions. The destiny is decided before the pregnancy. After the impregnation is made, the mother cannot change the character and psychic tendencies of the doer, which is to re-exist. The utmost that she can do is to interrupt or postpone their expression, if such is the destiny of the child. The mother has no right to say what the features of the child shall be or what position in life it shall hold, nor has she the right to attempt to determine its sex. The sex has been determined before pregnancy. Any attempt to change it is against the law and injures the child.
Yeah, that is a very great revelation, of course. Most of us know it, still he has vividly explained how a mother should think. She can never think that she can influence the child by her own thoughts of having certain features, physical features or mental characteristics. She can never have that influence at all. She should not. If she tries to do that, then she tries to impress all those her influence on the child, then it will be dangerous for the child, because the doer in the child will definitely have a certain idea about its life. The plan has already been made. So she has no right to interrupt or coerce or force her thoughts on the child even before it is born. So that is both parents should never influence their thoughts to have an influence on the child. Their thoughts to have an influence on the child to be born. And even after birth it is so. So we should always remember Kahlil Gibran's sayings that your child is not your child. Your children are not your children. They come of you, but they are not of you. So you can never put your thoughts into them. They should have their thoughts in order to live their plans, and they will live their lives. So the mother to be has no right to have any influence on the child, as I have quoted Kahlil Gibran just now. So the mother has to be in utmost care, and she should take to meditation until she delivers the baby. So much is there, so much protection has to be given in order that the other entities' influence does not affect the fetus, and the mother also is not influenced, and she also does not from her side influence the child. So the thought of the child alone prevails, and that becomes the destiny of the child. So the doer has all the right to live his own life. And nobody has got any right to influence. That is the inference that we get from here.
With the beginning of pregnancy, the mother is brought more closely into touch with the form plane. She should hold herself to a pure life and think on lofty subjects, thereby avoiding improper thoughts. Her right to change these thoughts, appetites and desires which come to her depends on how they affect herself. She has the right to refuse to obey any impressions felt which would tend to lower her in her own estimation or to injure her present or future health.
A lot of information has been given how a mother, a pregnant would-be mother or a pregnant lady has to conduct herself. She should be given lot of scope for improving herself in many ways. She should never allow herself to be deteriorated from her level, and she should have lofty thoughts. Such thoughts should be entertained by her in her mind, and no influence on anything, and she should also not be influenced, and her desires and her appetite, inappropriate appetite, should be governed by her properly in such a way that they do not cause any injury or any discomfort during pregnancy or later after pregnancy, after delivery. So these are the few points that Percival has told, apart from many other things. So we have to take note of all these things, especially the young ladies who are to be pregnant. So they have to take care and adopt these things in their daily life, and definitely they have to take to meditation in such a way that they conduct themselves in a proper way and the child also gets comfort during pregnancy. So already the formation of the tissues in the body of the child, it causes lot of pain to the doer, but and apart from that, the mother also, if she has any influence, that will only affect seriously the child. So she should remember all these things and then conduct herself in a proper manner, that her daily routine is very much with full of energy, full of beautiful thoughts, lofty thoughts, and reading very good books during that time, taking enough rest and taking to certain precautions so that other influences does not affect her or the fetus. So these are all the points I think Percival has to give us. So the humanity is benefited by these words, definitely. So because we have got a responsibility to bring to the world a great human beings, so that the humanity itself can last long and it can have very great influences, and we produce such human beings who can later on become Buddhas by their spiritual practices as well as their lofty thoughts.
Prenatal development opens the psychic nature of the prospective mother and makes her sensitive to influences from the form plane. If she is of sound health, mind and morals, the uncommon emotional phases which she experiences come to her because of the thoughts of the doer, which will be in the child. If she is a medium or of a weak mind, lacks morals or unsound body, she may be beset by all manner of beings of the form plane, which desire to obsess or control her and to have the sensations which her condition affords them. Nature ghosts, ghosts of dead men, and morbid desires of the living and the lost portions of the doers may crowd in upon her. If her body is not strong enough or her desires not opposed to them, or if she is not high-minded enough to resist their urgings and does not know how to keep them away, these creatures in search of sensation may control her. Sudden debauchery, fits of drunkenness and morbid fancies may be indulged in, bestial appetites gratified, revolting practices allowed, explosive outbursts of anger which lead to killing and messing in blood may take place. The paroxysms of delirious fury, frenzied hilarity and intense gloom may obsess the mother irregularly or with cyclic frequency. Such conditions are usually caused by creatures who have been thrown out of the stream of human progress.
Yeah, rightly said by Percival, what all precautions a pregnant lady has to take. She should not allow herself drifted away in drunkenness or in use of drugs and other things that he has mentioned. So the other creatures who have already fallen down from humankind, they all try to impose their influence and also try to control her if she happens to be weak in her body and her mind. Weak in the mind means weak in the body also. So these things the mother to be has to keep in mind and take ample measures in order to keep herself fit and fine in the mind as well as in the body, because those times, the prenatal times, are the most important times for the development of the child, physically as well as morally. So, so that the influence does not affect the child to a great degree. There is a great responsibility for the parents to bring about great children, and they should not allow their influence to affect the child. So, they should themselves not be affected by other influences, first of on one side, and they should on the other side not affect the child with these influences. So, they have to take to spiritual practices and read great books, and they should try to be not affected by all those other things, low nature in which they may be drifted to without their awareness, without being aware of it. That is, going into a frenzy, going into fits of anger, and throwing themselves to or exposing themselves to inappropriate appetite and desires. So many things are there in the world which may drift them away from the normal natural state of being. So, a common man himself has to take all these points and conduct himself properly, but particularly a pregnant woman has to take utmost care in order to keep herself and the child in good health in the mind and in the body. So, these two are very, very important, so that their intellect is intact and the doer in the body is comfortable. So, the body should not deteriorate because of the mental attitude. So, there are so many influences outside, but that should be avoided, they should never be entertained, and so that we bring about very great children into the world. That is a very, very great responsibility that we have. So, utmost care is to be taken during prenatal periods.
On the other hand, the prenatal period may be one of satisfaction, one in which the mother feels sympathy for everyone, a period of mental exhilaration, buoyancy and life of happiness, aspiration and high-mindedness, and she may gain knowledge of things not usually known. The atmospheres of the incoming doer blend with the atmospheres of the mother, and the thoughts whirling in the atmospheres of the fetus affect her. The atmosphere of the doer of the fetus acts upon it through the atmospheres of the mother, and all connections are made through the breath.
So, on one hand, yes, we should how the mother should take caution during prenatal periods. On the other hand, those times can be utilized by the mother to be in a very great advantage to her. She should convert the same times, that is the 9 months of pregnancy, so to say, that period should be lived very happily without any tension, without causing any bad intentions, nothing should be there. In fact, she can utilize the time to learn so many things that she would otherwise not known at all. So, she should indulge in all those things, knowing so many things, being peaceful, keeping her desire and her feelings under control, even appetite under control, so that it will be all regularized, everything should be regularized and everything in proper position. So that in proper measure also, so that she herself is not put to problems, and the world will not have a difficult time with the child that is born because of the mother's influence. So, this time, which is very it can be made, prenatal times can be made a disastrous time, or it can be made into a miraculous one by the mother to be. So, it is the mother, up to the mother to make it a very useful and a beneficial time for her to learn, and also for the child to develop in a better manner. So, she also can develop, the child also can develop. We have heard so many in our scriptures, so many stories which tell us that how the mothers were, how brilliant children were brought about into the world. So, these are some examples have been given in those scriptures. So, we should take to all that, and we should, I think, adopt a balanced life and try to make the prenatal period a memorable and a beautiful period, so that both mother and child will be safe and they can produce so much of goodness in the world, and also the atmosphere in which they live can be made beautiful. The mental atmosphere created by the child, it affects, influences the mother also, and they both together work one upon the other through the breath only, because they both breathe together. So it is the breath that is very important. So she should have an observation on the breath, so that the breath is normalized. She never has difficulty in breathing, and the breath is at a very nice a rhythmic pace, so that everything, all the systems in the whole body will be controlled and it will function beautifully. So for all this, she should take to spirituality, take to spiritual practices of practicing dhyana, then taking to reading very great spiritual books, and also hearing others' meditational great experiences. So with these three, she can utilize the time beautifully and develop herself, as well as giving great influence on the child to be born.
All this is the psychic destiny of the doer, who will live in the body which is being prepared, and at the same time it fits the mother and is her destiny. This period of a woman's life is distinctly psychic. She may learn much by studying her emotions and thoughts during that time, for by doing so she may follow not only the process of nature within herself, but may see these in operation in the external world. Moreover, it is her duty to protect the body in a charge from evil influences which may beset it through her. As soon as the placental development begins and circulation is established between the fetus and the mother, the four atmospheres of the mother and the breath form of the fetus are mutually connected. The food she takes becomes part of her blood, and that carries her breath into the fetus, where the doer's own thoughts are thereby implanted. Desire in the mother for wholesome food, or for liquors, or for strange foods and drinks comes from the thoughts of the doer, which thus express themselves in the physical body later in life as proneness to virtues or vices.
Yeah, this is very important to know that the period, the pregnancy period is the most beautiful or a very difficult period according to the mother. So mother, if she is able to use it in a better way, it is all the more better for her. If she takes to drugs and then alcohol and all those things, then she may have to face vices, that is that may develop, vices may develop at a later stage in her mind. So she has to be very careful, because the psychic destiny of the child is developed now. So she has to be in utmost caution and take to meditation and practice it regularly, be sincere in that and serious in that, so that she will have a better life after delivery also, and the child also will produce great results and will have a beautiful destiny.
After the child is born, the tendencies implanted in the fetus and the re-existing in the child gradually develop into the physical form and features, the psychic inclinations and the mental qualities and powers. Finally, the body comes into the world with the desires and tendencies which have been transferred by the doer to the child through the father and the mother.
Yeah, both parents have got great role in the development of a child, and of course the child has its own doer, and the thoughts of the doer will come as the destiny of the child. Still some amount of influence will be there by both the parents. So it is better for the parents to take to great spiritual path and then lead their lives for the betterment of themselves upliftment of themselves as well as the doer in the child's body. So, with these words, I think we have come to the end of the session. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Over to Rajan sir.
So friends, we will conclude with the final words that ultimately it is the duty of the father and mother to look after the growth of the child from its inception, from the time it comes into the embryo until it comes out into the world, to become a good citizen of this world, so that it will be a good human being which will take to the spiritual path and also imbibe qualities that are required and also spread the qualities that are to be taken up by other individuals, so that the whole world becomes spiritual. Thank you, thank you, thank you.